Look, I mean, obviously it starts off at CES, where I think that Jensen's speech on that Monday is going to set the tone setter, right? In terms of autonomous, robotics, physical AI. But look, I think the reality is that despite a lot of the haters and the bears in hibernation mode, it is going to be, I think, just a booming year for AI and tech stocks, especially in the first half of the year. I think investors are underestimating specifically on software. Like we talk about not just Palantir, but MongoDB, Snowflake, a lot of the infrastructure plays, Nebius, and some of those others. It's about the derivative plays, the second, third, fourth derivatives, CrowdStrike, cybersecurity, Palo Alto. And I think what we're going to see play out, Microsoft, Oracle. Look, I think we sit here a year from now, Oracle is the name that I think investors are just throwing in the garbage. That's the one I think investors are getting.
Why is that?
Because it's the view, like, taking on debt, OpenAI is not going to be good for their bill. Look, if you look at any OpenAI-related tech stock, from AMD to Microsoft to Oracle, those stocks have sold off significantly. And I think the reality is this is an AI revolution where you're in, we talk about the AI party, it's 10:30, 10:45 p.m. Party goes to 4 a.m., start at 9 p.m. And OpenAI is going to play a huge role in that in the infrastructure build out. So to me, Paul, it's like I think like tech stocks, they're up 25%.
Really? 25 and 2026. But I mean, is that the big names like Nvidia? Because I think to myself, lots of competition out there for them. First of all, supply chain challenges continue, but you've also got Google and Amazon, big competitors who are playing catch up with Nvidia. Can it really hold on to that momentum in 2026?
Look, there's only one godfather of AI. He's wearing a black leather jacket. His name's Jensen. And I think, look, they are 5 years ahead of any other competitor. That's why, look, for them, like even their third best chip, restricted H200s,
right,
in China, despite whatever the politics, Baba, JD, Tencent, they want those chips. Because it comes down to like, they are so many years ahead of competition. I think, but look, AMD, that's going to be a major play that we see playing out. And then I think you start to look at like what Google's doing, what Microsoft is doing in this chip world. It's in an AI arms race, but here's the deal. For the first time in 30 years, U.S. is ahead of China when it comes to tech.
How about that?
That is, I think that's really like the most important thing here. That's
and it's getting lost in the sauce, I feel, what you just said.
Well, it is. Because for so many times, like I'd be in Taiwan, 18 hours, seeing like factory fabs, then land in Newark Airport, there's some fist fight Dunkin' Donuts, and you're like, wow, we are like so behind. Now, switched.
So is OpenAI going to go public in 2026, and is that going to be a seminal event for?
I think early 27.
Okay.
They could file maybe by the late 26, but I think that's the thing. Like SpaceX, you think about Anthropic, you think about OpenAI. Look, the reality is that people talk about bubble. Some of the best companies that haven't even gone public yet, and I think there's a supply demand for big growth names, and that's why, to me, I think investors that are saying it's a bubble, tech's done, they're doing it from the 25th floor of a New York City office building or Metro North, right? I mean, the reality is like for someone like me that sees it globally, sees the demand and supply is 12-1 for NVIDIA chips today in Asia.
But here's the question. Is there enough energy out there to meet that supply? Because that's one of it's the biggest challenge going forward.
Look, if you think like the thing to me that like, if you're just like, what could spoil the AI party? Right. It's not about demand, fourth industrial revolution. It's not about like the use cases. It's energy and regulation. And look, energy, that's why like, you look what's happened on nuclear. You saw the TAE deal with, obviously Trump Media. You saw what Google's doing in terms of them buying their own energy company. I mean, energy is the biggest restriction in the U.S., but I continue to believe like nuclear is going to be the play there.
CES, it's 250, 300,000 people descend on Vegas for it. And it's been going there for 40 years. I've been going to this thing. This one feels like we might get like a seminal announcement coming out of this, whether it's a product, a service, an investment, a deal. It just feels like maybe this CES might be something where something really material pops out of Vegas.
Yeah, I agree. Because like, look, for so many years, CES is like, oh, great, a refrigerator that talks to you, a cool drone. That now it's really become like central to when you think about the AI revolution. I think when you talk about chips, when you look what's coming out of AMD, I think Nvidia is really going to double down on robotics. I think quantum is another one. If you go back a year ago, that's where Jensen was sort of quantum's like 10, 15 years away. Quantum stock sold up. I actually think there's going to be a lot more bullish when it comes to quantum. And look, I know like half the companies that I know that are going there, they're not officially there.
Yeah.
Why are they going there? They're not going there to go to the Cosmo or go to the Wynn for dinner. They're going because they're looking for acquisition candidates.
I kind of feel like during CES, if I talk to a CEO, I think my first question is going to be, why are you not in Vegas? Like, I don't care what business you're in. I'm in the paint business.
You're touched by the technology.
Yeah.
Exactly. But to Paul's point, this isn't just about like consumer gadgets, 100-inch televisions that somehow talk to you. Now it's really become central to like where the technology. Think about the Chinese presence there in terms of Xpeng, BYD, everyone else. Mm-hmm. You think about autonomous, robotics, and that's why, like, I think the one thing to stress to anyone listening is like this is AI. It's not just about like ChatGPT. What model do you use? Mm-hmm. We are now. This is the year Apple dives into the deep end of the pool when it comes to AI on the consumer side. We're now going to hit the next level of the AI revolution, but this is a 1996 moment. Not 1999, 2000 bubble moment.
Yes, thankfully. Do we expect a big China presence at this thing, given the relationship right now between the U.S. and China? Okay.
If you're a China tech company, you have to come here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think like when I think about like the presence last year, that was already significant. This year, it's booming because for them, okay, like they're not going to be able to sell into the U.S. at least currently. But this, for them, it's a flex to muscles on the global stage in terms of them selling South America, Europe, Australia. I mean,
because the world descends upon CES, right?
Because like this is the world event. But to Paul's point, like if you're not there, it's almost like being at a wedding at a table by the kitchen with random people instead of being at like kind of like Paul. He's always like front and center, like he's at the cool table.
Matt Campbell named 17th Penn State head football coach. What do you think?
Look, I think Campbell, like he is the right guy for Penn State. I mean, it's not just that; it's the staff he's going to bring in. He knows how to recruit. I think he's the magic formula. I think now we'll get Danton Lynn from USC as a defensive coordinator. This is going to build the stage to what like people will say next year, it's a rebuilding year. I disagree. I think this gets us back into the playoffs next year. And it goes back to the dream for a natty in 27 or 28.